somehow recovering, we're somehow persevering through the times. And I hope this is one of the moments, you know, where you get to just mix up with other people and just go through different experience and get to interact, or just having your mind, you know, exposed to something that kind of, you know, I hope it's something that is different, you know. So welcome again to one of our Mimi Nani sessions, and today we are going to be talking about communication skills. It's one of the, I think it's one of the great topics that you must have come across, whether in your school, in your academics, or, you know, in life in general. It's something that, you know, whether you get it in class or you just blend it with, but, you know, it's an important skill that each one of us ought to have, because, you know, it's part of our relationships. You know, that's how we connect with each other, that's how we link with each other. So it's a very important element, and you know, through it people have been misunderstood, through it relationships have been broken, and some have been, you know, restored. So it's a very important element. That's how people retain customers. That's how you know, people get to acquire customers as well. So it's a key skill. It's a required skill that we need to constantly learn about it and see how best we can improve it, whether formally or informally. So you cannot escape from communicating. And even when you're not, you know, when you're not communicating, you're also communicating. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, you know, it's many ways. Body language, you know, our bodies speak, our emotions can speak, words, and so many things. So, you know, we need to be intentional at how we portray or send messages, or whatever, you know, how we express our needs and wants and things like that. So I hope, you know, we can get something out of today's sessions and really improve on this, you know, in your, I would say, basket of skills, you know, when it comes to communication. I hope you can be challenged to improve and all that as you learn from each other. So let's open up today. Let's ask questions. Let's share our experiences by using the chat or get to speak. So without taking more time, I will introduce today's speakers, presenters, our wonderful facilitators. So we have Miss Lucy, and she will be co-facilitating with Mr. Kevin Strandiek. So I welcome you. Please take over and engage us for the rest of the hour and a half. Yeah, so welcome, Lucy. You're on mute. We can't hear you, Lucy.
Sorry. Hi.
Hello.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
All right. Thank you so much. Good evening, everybody else. This is a bit nerve-wracking. Let's just start with that. But like you mentioned, Felicia, communication is an aspect of life that no one can actually avoid. It's something that we do consciously, subconsciously. It's just like, it's a basic way of life. And I don't really want to spend a lot of time talking about this, you know, the definitions and whatnot. So before we do start, sorry, I'm trying to share my screen. All right, here we go. Okay, there we go. So the objectives for this session is, I think they're a bit pretty straightforward. To thoroughly understand what communication is, we need to understand like I said, the definition, what it entails, the process, and then we need to understand who we're communicating with, your publics, your audiences. And the last objective is understanding the different platforms that we have, both formal and informal platforms. This will also cover a bit of etiquette and so forth, because I know this has been an issue for many of us. With that said, I would like to start with a basic definition, rather, of what communication is. I know this is the definition is something, even if you enter on Google and just type, it's pretty straightforward. It's basically sending and receiving messages. There is, for some, a science to it, depending on your work and area of expertise or whatever it is you do for work professionally. But for others, it's just sending a message, receiving a message, you know, the cycle. You send something out and you get feedback. So in my profession, rather, I do public relations. So for me, communication is like my bread and butter at work. In every aspect of my life, I need to be very conscious of my communication. I need to be very intentional, and so forth and so forth. So if I am asked as a professional to explain what communication is, I think this cycle is the easiest way I would explain it to anyone. Like I said, it's sending and receiving information. Like we see on this diagram, we have the sender, we have the channel, the receiver, the noise, and then the encoding and decoding. So I'm gonna get into explaining what all this is, just so that we are all on the same page as far as professional communication and basic communication is concerned. When we speak of the sender in this communication cycle, we are talking about wherever the origin of the message is. We are talking of the composer of the message. So in this case, it could be me, it could be whoever it is that I want to send a message to. Wherever the message originates from, that is the sender. Encoding in the cycle refers to turning your thought or your idea into content that can be sent to a receiver. That is what encoding is. Your channel in this case is any means of communication, any platform or channel that your message goes through. I will skip the decoding and go to the receiver. The receiver is, I think it's straightforward as well. It's whoever the message is intended for. And therefore the decoding in this case would refer to the receiver's ability to transform this coded message into something that they can understand and something that they can act upon and either respond or get into an action or whatever it is that their feedback needs to be. So the decoding is basically them trying to understand your message. The noise, this little oval at the bottom there, the noise is, in short, communication barriers. Anything that hinders you from either receiving the message or successfully sending the message. So like we see here, communication it affects all the other elements at the top. It affects the sender, the encoding, the channel, the decoding, and the receiver. This is because barriers come in different formats. Communication barriers, they all come in different formats, so they will affect people differently. Okay, I hope this is a little bit clear. I've tried to be as clear as possible. This is basically what I was just talking about, the definitions of each. Like I'm going too fast. Okay, so now that we have understood the communication cycle, we go back to our diagram, we have the channels, the medium where that is used for communication. And in this essence, we thought it would be easier to divide the means of communication into two. We have the channels and then the platform. The channels, in this case, they're a little bit a little bit old school, in that we have mainstream media and digital media. These are the channels that we're all familiar with, you know, the TV, the radio, the print media, podcasts, and the like. These are all channels of communication. We also have what we call platforms, which are much more technological, and they offer more advantages, more engagement, such as our social media platforms, our websites, the apps, and so forth. When we speak of communication, these two are usually used interchangeably, the two terms, the platform and the channels. But to be clear, when you're speaking to someone who is now experienced in it, there's actually a bit of a difference, because channels are more of, you send out this information, you just send it out, but chances of course, nowadays with all these advancements, you can get on this on like live interaction with your audiences. But back then, we didn't really have this the ability to respond immediately through channels. It was more of channels just sending out messages. While platforms nowadays allow you to engage with your audience, you can engage with them one-on-one, you can respond to questions and queries and comments on the spot. They are quicker for you to disseminate information, but they also do have their own disadvantages. So once we understand this, now it comes down to just understanding the two, and then finding this balance where you're able to exploit this two and use them to your advantage, you know, not just stick to one means of communication. I hope so far we are together. I'm literally running through this. Okay, any questions so far?
We are good.
Okay, now that I've explained that, the important question that we have then is, what is effective communication? Because it's not just sending and receiving a message. There has to be a goal towards you sending a communication. So effective communication, in essence, is the ability to disseminate information, to pass through the noise and all communication barriers, and then successfully receive this message, decode it, understand it, and then take the necessary action. And so the key for effective communication is basically that the message is understood. If the message is not understood, then it beats the purpose of communication. There won't be that response that you're looking for, or the feedback. That is in essence what effective communication is. Once we understand now effective communication, then you have to come up with a communication strategy. You don't just send out a message for the sake of sending out a message. So our communication strategy is basically an actionable, a measurable, attainable plan that you put into place so that you're able to get to your intended audience in the right manner, in a timely manner, through the right channels, and then receive the feedback or the desired action that you're looking for. That is a communication strategy. So it looks at all these aspects. It needs to be actionable, it needs to be measurable, attainable, it needs to be doable, in that the channel that you're using needs to be practical for your audience to access. And that is all part, and then you need to receive your feedback. That is all part of a successful communication strategy. I think that is also quite straightforward. And then we move on to the elements of effective communication. On this, we have the audience versus the target, which in this case, again, there are two terms that we tend to use interchangeably, but for the sake of effective communication, an audience is rather a generalized group of recipients to whom the message may or may not apply, whereas the target is the actual intended recipient of this message. For example, I will give an example of a commercial. Let's say you work for a company that produces beauty products, right? Your target is aging creams for women. Your target group would probably be women from the age of 45 going upwards, and that your audience would be basically anyone who has access to this commercial that you're doing. So if this commercial is going to run on the television, that means anybody watching TV. It could be a 2-year-old, it could be a man, it could be teenagers, they're all part of the audience. But the target would be that specific woman to whom this message was tailored for, that 45, 50-year-old woman who is watching. And for your message to be successful, that means she's going to see this commercial, she's going to go out of her way to buy this product, use it, and maybe give you feedback. But the point is, she has done that intended action that you wanted her to do. So that's the difference between your audience and your target in this in effective communication. Another element would be your goals, your communication goals. For you to be successful, again, your goals, your aims, your objectives, and the purposes, they're all the answer to the whys of your communication. Why am I sending out this message? Why am I targeting this particular group of people? Why am I using this means of communication? You know, all of that, your goals, they are the answer to all the whys that come with your communication strategy. That is another element of effective communication. I hope I'm clear.
Yes, you are, Lucy.
Okay, now let's move on to something that is a bit sensitive for all of us, etiquette. Etiquette is, it's it's a customary or expected behavior pertaining to how something is and should be handled or addressed. It's usually considered protocol, but there is a slight difference. So etiquette is, it's not, of course, in certain areas, etiquette is written down, you know, it's expected, but it's rather, it's more of, you know, when you do something, there's certain things that you're expected to be cautious of, to keep in mind of, to look out for.
Hello?
As opposed to protocol. Protocol is mandatory to do without the other, you know. Sorry, on a protocol and written channels. Hello?
I don't know if,
Hello?
I don't know if it's me, but I think you kind of went off.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you now. I'm not sure if it's my network or we lost you. Okay, I think we lost Lucy.
Hello?
Yes, Lucy. Okay. I hope you're now well connected.
Hi, Felicia, I can hear you.
Okay. Please proceed.
Okay.
We lost you. I think it's the network.
I am. Yeah, I think so, because your voice is also a bit shaky.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So can you put
All
back
right.
the presentation?
Yeah, how far behind was I?
I think you're talking about the etiquette, the protocol. So if you can repeat on that part again.
I hope I'm not off again.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Okay, all right. Okay, so like I was saying, etiquette is it's customary or it's expected. Um, it's expected behavior, you know, how something should be handled, how something should be addressed, as opposed to protocol, which is mandatory. So in the case of communication, there are certain instances or scenarios where something is mandatory. In that case, it's protocol. But then there are also certain aspects where it is etiquette. You're just required to follow certain etiquette, you know, certain norms or certain expectations you need to adhere to. That is, in short, what etiquette is. So, as I was saying before we got broken up, for the sake of discussion, we're gonna look at just two, a vocal platform and a written platform. And then I really hope we can actually discuss, because I realize there's so many platforms that we are facing right now that we communicate through. And I think it will be very interesting to hear what everyone thinks are etiquette as opposed to protocol of communications on these different platforms. So for the sake of the few minutes that I still have, I'm going to look at phone call as a platform of communication. The nature of a phone call can be both formal and informal. The audience on a phone call is very specific. So in this case, your message goes to your specific target audience. And when it comes to phone calls, we do have etiquette that goes with it. This would include, you know, not letting your phone go unanswered unnecessarily, which is a problem I personally have. I tend to let the phone go. You need to learn to answer the phone with a clear and a polite salutation. Introduce yourself clearly. Um, you need to learn to listen as well. You know, avoid interrupting the speaker. Speak with clarity when you're given the opportunity to do so. Um, as well, be observant to the language preferences. You know, language is usually a very big communication barrier. It's in this, like we said, noise. It's usually very troublesome. So when you're speaking to someone over the phone, be observant of the language, their preference, and hopefully they're observant of yours as well. And this also goes to the words that you use, because you know a phone call is something that requires both of you to think on your feet, rather, to think really quickly, respond appropriately, and so forth. So that also means avoid using words that will cause confusion or misunderstanding, because you know when you're on a phone call, no one is going to be sitting there with a dictionary trying to understand what every big word you say is. So be mindful of the language, the preferences, the words you use, be considerate. Um, if it's for a formal call, always ask before leaving the other party on hold. It's very unprofessional, just putting a person on hold and leaving no explanation. Um, and just like you began your phone call, always end it in a respectful manner. And then for those of us that still use voicemail messages, again, be sure to respond to your messages in a timely manner. Don't leave people waiting unnecessarily. Um, I think that's a bit clear. I'm going to move to written communication. In this case, emails. So email as a platform is a very formal platform of communication, regardless of who you're speaking to. The email platform was created with formality in mind. So the audience that comes with emails is a very specific recipient, in that enter a specific email address. So that means it goes to your target audience. The etiquette now that goes with emails. Oh God. Can everyone hear me? Because I'm seeing my internet is being unstable again.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. So the etiquette that goes with emails is, first and foremost, never send an email with an empty subject line. The subject line gives your recipient an idea of what the email is. It helps them gauge whether they should respond to your email immediately. It helps them gauge whether it's an urgent email, and how they should handle and how they should respond to your email, what kind of urgency they need to put on it. So never send your email with an empty subject line. Keep your subject line clear. It shouldn't be too long, it shouldn't be too short, but it should be clear. It should be able to give your recipient an idea of what to expect in the body of the email. Be mindful of your tone. Again, emails are very formal, so avoid using a tone that seems informal or disrespectful or whatever it is. Just be very mindful of your tone. Again, be mindful of your grammar and punctuation. Avoid using shorthand texts. Shorthand text is what we normally use on messaging apps, regular texts and WhatsApp and so forth. A lot of us tend to use shorthand text. But when it comes to emailing, be careful with your grammar, be careful with punctuation, paragraph accordingly. Don't use shorthand texts. Use sentence case. In that case, begin with a capital letter, write properly. If you're using nouns, always remember to capitalize the first letter of every noun. That includes I. I is also a noun, so it always needs to be in capital. And that presents formality on your part. Consider your salutation and your closing line. Again, be polite, be respectful. Use sentence case, like I mentioned that. Avoid sending back-to-back messages. When you're texting regular messages, it's very easy to just send one sentence, one word, and just have all these back-to-back messages that have just piled up from one sender. But when it comes to emailing, that is much more professional. So rather than send so many messages one after the other, try to find a way to compile your message all in one email, send it, and then allow room for the recipient to respond. And I think the only thing that etiquette-wise, you're probably allowed to do is do a follow-up, but your follow-up should also, again, be politeful. It should be, it shouldn't come immediately after the text, because you never know what the other person is doing. So just leave ample time for this person to be able to respond, and then either do a follow-up message or find another means to contact this person. And then also, as a recipient, always respond to your emails in a timely manner. Don't leave your senders waiting for days and no word. That's pretty much it for emails. I hope I've not forgotten anything else. We do have other platforms. We've got social media platforms. There are those who still do letters. There are those who use things like LinkedIn. There are those who use what is this? Pinterest. All of these are platforms of communication. How you package your message on these platforms now differs with your audiences and the nature of each platforms. And like I said earlier, this is something I think we need to just discuss, so that, because etiquette in these different platforms is interpreted differently by each individual. That said, I think we move on to public speaking skills. This is a very important element of communication, especially if you are going to be doing corporate, if you're going to be doing professional communication for different organizations. Public speaking is a skill that will really help you along the way. And like every other element of speaking, of communication rather, it also has its own etiquette and things that you need to observe and be aware of while you are undertaking any audience in public speaking. So etiquette in public speaking would include, I think the first and foremost is just understand your topic. when you understand your topic, it carries you. It helps carry you in so many ways. You need to understand your topic, and then you need to understand your audience. If if your speech is written, always go through your speech several times. Make sure you know your speech front to back, back to front. Try to know it from different angles. You know, it should be something that when you're picked up promptly, you're able to just say, okay, I understand my topic. This is what I'm going to cover when I'm speaking in public. Learn to pronounce names in their rightful manner, whether it's names for individuals or companies or whatever it is. Always know that it's important to know how to pronounce every name the way that it is intended to be pronounced. Because if, for example, you are given a foreign name to pronounce and you do not pronounce it right, different people take this differently. Some might take it in offense, and you might lose potential client, you might lose a potential boss. So always pronounce names the way that they are intended to be pronounced. So that means a lot of practice before you do your public speaking. Always begin with a proper salutation. In this case, observe protocol. Now this one is mandatory. This is not just etiquette. So observe all protocol at all times. Make sure you know who is who, the dignitaries, in the case that you're speaking before dignitaries, recognize them in the order that they need to be recognized respectfully, observe all protocol. I think that's that. And then we also have body language. Body language is very important in public speaking because it speaks to you as a person, to you as the person delivering the speech, your body language, your hand gesture, your eye contact. In public speaking, certain body language shows your confidence and your assurance of your presence before the audience. And when you're confident before your audience, it's very easy for them to believe whatever it is that you're saying. So you need to have you need to portray a certain body language that exudes that confidence, that you're in control of that space. Avoid being too fidgety, you're moving, you're scratching yourself, you're doing this. Just don't do any of that. It's very distracting. It shows that you're not sure of your position. You're uncertain, I think. Your hand gesture is something, it's not avoidable. There's certain things you're going to say that you're going to use your hands to explain. But when you're speaking to a public audience, it's always important to try and keep it to a minimum. Too much hand is very distracting, and it makes an audience lose track. And as far as eye contact goes, public speaking is very nerve-wracking. And it does not matter how experienced you are, there's always going to be some point where you do public speaking, and when it comes to making eye contact with anyone, you will just melt. But eye contact is very important because it convinces, it carries this, it helps you convince your audience. When you look at a specific person and you're sort of like speaking to them, it carries your message that extra mile. So personally, I don't know how everybody else does, but I remember, as a kid, when we're doing the speeches and debates and all that, we used to get to be told, imagine everybody in the audience as pebbles or in their underwear. The idea is for them not to get into your head so much that they intimidate you. But if you imagine your audience in this vulnerable way, it helps you just feel much more in control, feel much more in power, and you're no longer as intimidated as you would have been if you see them for what they are, seated right there. That is basically what eye contact is. So everybody has a different way of dealing with eye contact in public speaking. And I'm actually looking forward to hearing what others do. Intonation, pitch, vocabulary, and eloquence. Your intonation in this case is how you modulate each word. You need to learn to keep a certain pitch that doesn't, in essence, annoy your audience. They need to be able to sit and keep listening to you without feeling like this person is either shouting at us or she's just either too aggressive. You need to form your words in such a way that it's appealing to your audience, and at the same time, it's also convincing to them. Avoid big words, avoid confusing words, because you want your audience to understand you and you want them to get the message that you're sending out. If you use big words or you use certain words that carry double meanings or so forth, the chances of your audience misinterpreting your message are higher, as opposed to you choosing words in your speech that say exactly what it is that you want to say. Your eloquence is based also your fluency in how you articulate your words and your flow, your speech, how you move from one topic to the next, how you move from one word to the next, you know, while keeping your audience engaged. That's what eloquence is. Confidence and conviction. So again, regardless of your message and the purpose of your speech, your confidence is a large portion of your speech. It's how you address them, how you present yourself, how you carry yourself, the air that you bring, all of that, plus the conviction in your message, the conviction in your voice. And this is where understanding your topic is very important, because once you understand it, you're able to put to, you have that thing in your voice that is, it just reeks of that conviction that this is it, this is what I want my people to understand. You know, this is what I want them to hear. So once you have that confidence and you have the conviction, you're easily, your chances of your message being received the way it needs to be received are higher, as opposed to if you didn't understand your topic or understand your audience, and then you're all fidgety, and in your head you're questioning yourself, am I saying the right thing, am I doing the right thing? You know, the moment you start doubting yourself, then you lose that conviction, and your voice will always carry that when it comes to public speaking, right? That is that. So we are gonna move on to, we're almost done actually, presentation skills. Personally, first off, I'm not really a public speaker. I do communication for a living, but I am always on the behind the scenes. I'm always behind the curtains. So as I was doing this, I had to learn as well what presentation skills are. You know, it's no longer me coaching people how to present. Skill in presenting is effective listening. And effective listening, hi.
Hello, Lucy. I think you were breaking up again. Maybe if you can
Oh my
repeat a
God.
little bit, yeah, just as you started the effective listening.
Okay, all right. Okay, then I wasn't very fast. So effective listening is listening to understand, you know. For you to hear what the other person is trying to say, you need to first off avoid the interruptions, you know, listen to understand, not listen to respond. A lot of us on our day-to-day communication, many times we find ourselves, instead of listening to understand the other person, we listen to respond. But when it comes to effective listening, when somebody is trying to pass a message, to send a message, or to communicate with you, it's important to learn to listen, to understand. Note down your questions. If this is a formal presentation, for example, you have a pen and paper, note down your questions and then ask when you're given a chance to speak. Avoid interrupting speaker. Unless it's really, really urgent. Because again, when you interrupt the speech, just try to note down all these questions that you might have. Try to make sure you try to understand what they're trying to say, you know, get the gist of their message. But then as a presenter also, it's important to research and understand your topic. Before you get before people, always research your topic thoroughly. This is now in addition to all the public speaking skills that we've gone through. A thorough research and understanding of your topic is really, really important. That way, if your audience has questions, you know, you're in a better position. I'm going to come back to you and answer later, you know, because you've thoroughly understood your topic, and in as much as you might not have an answer on the spot, you're able to come back to them later, right? Then we have background communication. So background communication will cover everything from CVs to pitching yourself to different people and so forth and so forth. When it comes to background communication, first off, you need to understand your audience and what they need. And then once you understand your audience, you understand all their specific needs, then you need to learn how to measure, so to speak, how much information on your part is enough for you to reveal. Because not every audience would want to hear every nitty detail of your background. Always choose your information carefully. So am I still on? Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, you're breaking again. So it's like, yeah, it's like we're trying to move with the flow as you connect and reconnect.
Okay, where did I lose everybody?
So you were on the background communication.
Okay, all right. So as I was saying, with the background communication, we thought to use what we call the relative experience versus the transferable skills approach, which is quite straightforward, but just for explanation's sake, relative experience would be the experience that came by through professional nurturing in your career path as an individual and as a person. So this would include your educational experience, it would include your career experiences and so forth. These are all part of the professional nurturing. So yeah, that's that. And then the transferable skills, these are skills that you pick up along the way. They're acquired, they're learned over over the years that you either working, interacting with people. They are not necessarily skills that you go to school for, but they're skills that help you compensate. For example, you've gone to a place where they had specific requirements, but you still feel like, you know, I think I still qualify for this position. So your transferable skills would actually come in handy here, in that in as much
Hello, Lucy. I think we lost you again. Okay, I think Lucy is stuck. Okay, let's hope she joins in again. Yeah, I think she was almost coming to an end of the presentation so that we can have more discussion around it. So as she tries to join in, I would like to hear from participants' contributions or questions or discussions around this topic on communication. I think this is a widely discussed topic. You know, we study about it, we are being confronted about it, we are always constantly educated about, you know, how to communicate effectively and properly in our areas of work, school, and all those things. And, you know, it's like, what could be the challenges of you know, when it comes to communication, in as much as we learn so much, but at the same time, you know, when it comes to the youth, the young generation of the 21st century, you know, there are a lot of challenges when it comes to communication, and we have seen relationships being eroded every day. Okay, welcome, Lucy. Lucy, I see you're back. I don't know if your connection is working well now.
I'm so sorry. This is literally a communication voice. No. It's very shaky for some reason.
Yeah, it's
This is
fine.
an example of communication skills.
Yeah, communication barrier. I don't know if it's the channel.
Yeah.
Or, yeah, yeah.
But I was actually, is it the channel? What is networks? What do they fall under channels or means or
Maybe
whatever?
platforms or channels for today's yeah, I think we need to know better there.
Yeah, but I was actually towards the very end of
Okay.
this presentation, so we wouldn't have missed much.
Okay.
Um, I was still on transferable skills, I think,
Mm-hmm.
when this happened. As I was saying, it's an additional skill. It's picked up all over the years. It's acquired, not necessarily something that you go to school for, but it always helps to give you an edge. Um, for example, in job applications where you lack certain qualifications, transferable skills always help give you that edge. You know that I lack this, but I can compensate with this. That's what we mean by transferable skills. Um, So that is that. That's as far as presentation skills go. Now, like I mentioned earlier, this segment of the discussion is where we get to hear each other, and I think I have given quite the example on communication noise. My network has been all funny. So that is an example of communication noise, but I think it's going to be quite helpful for all of us to just discuss how can we get through communication noise. Um, but before we actually get to that, I think I'd like us to discuss the different platforms rather and their etiquette. You know, identify them, call them out, and then we can discuss now how to get through the noise on these different platforms. Um, I think for this one, I would like to give over to Kevin's. I think I saw him earlier. Yeah.
Hi,
Yes,
Lucy.
I.
Team. Good evening.
Still here.
I don't know.
Hi.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Hello, team. Good
What's up?
evening.
Hi.
Hi. Let me attempt to just build up on what Lucy has said, and I will wish to take focus on really communications and the platforms. In this particular case, let me look at email, let me look at the text, and probably let me also attempt to just give a bit of description on communications on a one-on-one. First and foremost to the participants listening, I'm really not a believer of reading books to understand etiquette, because with the whole issue of social media, with the continuous emergence of technology, I think each and every human being probably sets his or her own rules in terms of how he or she will want to communicate or respond via text, via email or something. But it's important. It's important for you to understand something also from a formal perspective. That if you want to communicate formally in seeking opportunities, hi, am I audible? Do I have a
Yes,
team
Kevin, we
listening?
can hear you. Yes, can hear you.
All
Yeah.
right. So when it really comes to communications and communicating formally, it's just important to have your human interest at heart. Your human interest here at heart is how friendly and how kind can you attempt to communicate to someone via phone. For example, basic etiquette for me is if I'm calling someone and probably we are not really in close contact on each and every day with this person, here's a brief discussion in terms of how let's attempt to give a formal communication on phone. And I'm always like, hello, good afternoon, good morning, whichever case time of the day it is. Could you probably afford 4 minutes of your time for me to speak up what I wanted to, or what I want to say? So it's really courteous in that if you're looking for someone who is busy, just be formal and kind by asking them, hey, could I have 2 minutes of your time for me to say one or two? What will happen here is, if this particular person is busy, he or she will tell you, hey, please, could you call me later? The other alternative will be this particular person will tell you, hey, please go ahead. In other scenarios, for example, let me say on a virtue of communicating, or rather attempting to communicate via text or via WhatsApp, and it could be something formal. One of the things I've learned along the way, also when it comes to sending formal information on WhatsApp, I will decide to type it on a Word document. That's if you can, that's if in moments whereby you can be able to do desktop WhatsApp. What that will mean is the ability of you writing a text, writing this particular text message on a Word document, copying and pasting it onto your WhatsApp desktop and sending it, will give you clarity, will give you a sense of, hey, you're trying to do a WhatsApp text, but you're really trying to customize it in a way that will reference or resonate to an email. This particular communication, probably whatever it is I'm trying to explain right now, goes to anyone who is starting out their career, anyone who is on a mid-level career, and probably anyone who probably will tend to struggle with communicating from both a formal perspective and an informal perspective. Another interesting thing that maybe I just wanted to touch on when it comes to presentation and public speaking, just in relations to what Lucinda had mentioned earlier, is public speaking, at times even for me as a person who, yes, will speak in public and all, I always face stage fright. Yeah, stage fright is always there. However, how much at times, yes, I'm prepared, or however, how much at times I will say that I have taken time to master my content, stage fright is always there. But I want to give an interesting thing, or rather an interesting discussion into how I attempted to build up, or rather take away stage fright of me, is through really becoming physically fit. You know, when I talk about really becoming physically fit, I really mean it becoming physically fit. And what physical fitness will do for me as a person is, when I'll realize that I am being tensed moments before I go on stage, I'll probably step like 10 meters away from the room, and I'll decide to run like for 10 meters. You get? So what that will happen for me is, in a way, it will calm me down. I mean, you see, as in trying to give yourself a physical activity before getting on stage. Other elements will be like, hey, you want to do a presentation and you'll say, "Ay, man, you're feeling tense." So the other way is probably breathing in and out. So when it really comes to public speaking and even presentations, ideally what I can advise someone, or probably anyone listening onto this particular session, is what you really need to do is, hey, find your own ways of taking off your stage fright or something. For some people, it's going to be breathing in and out. For others, it's going to be like clapping. For others, probably it could be like listening to music before they go on stage. So it could be different from one person to the other. The other thing, I mean, as a public speaker, or rather when you're trying to probably just communicate in public and within a platform, in that if at all you are in a room, let's say probably it's a large room, for example, and you feel like you're being tensed, the interesting way of taking your mind outside the whole scare and stage fright is by you looking at the farthest person in the room. So let me say if the room is like 15 meters or something, just ensure that you're putting your eye contact to the last platform of that of that particular room. Allow me to attempt again to probably explain something when it comes to text messaging and text communication, and maybe the whole discussion around how can someone communicate using the phone. In this particular instance, let me look at it from a point of, you could be looking for Kevin's. Kevin's probably is a point of contact that you've been following up for a while. An example of what I always do as a person is, if I'm really looking for someone, I will always segment the hours of the day by being, a day starts at about like 9 a.m. or 8 a.m. So if I've been looking for this person, I'll attempt to call at 9 a.m. My perspective on that is, when I'm attempting to call him or her at 9 a.m., probably he's starting off his day and maybe he will have a few minutes to speak or something. Now, the bone of contention here comes in when this particular person is not picking in at 9 a.m. So on my mind, I'll say, okay, he's busy 9 a.m. the day has started. Let me attempt and call him at 1 p.m. The assumption for me when I'm trying to make up this particular follow-up communication is at 1 p.m., I will assume that this particular person is probably having lunch or is going on a lunch break or something. So the idea here is, maybe he or she can afford a minute or two on phone with me. If this particular person is not picking up at that particular time, again, I'll tend to tell myself, okay, let me try and get the person, or rather, let me attempt and call the person at probably 5 p.m. in the evening. And reason why for me, I'll attempt to call a person again at 5 p.m. in the evening is with the assumption of that this particular person could be leaving work, or maybe this particular person could be having a bit of a break or something, simply because 5 p.m. With the East African working hours, depending on time zones, is probably close of the day. The reason why I'm giving you all those particular suggestions is it's practical activities, or rather practical situations that me as a person, I have attempted to use when I'm really trying to do what? When I'm really trying to look for someone. Bottom line, if actually person is not picking, the least at times I'll tend to do, though I'm not really of a text a person, the least at times I'll tend to do is, hey, my name is Kevin from Branke Communications. Could you probably attempt to give me 5 minutes of your time? There's 1 or 2, 3 things I wish to discuss with you. So the whole idea of putting etiquette into our habits, putting etiquette into our culture is also defined by who you are as a person. In that if at all you as a person yourself, you don't demonstrate kindness, you don't demonstrate calmness within yourself, then I'll probably also tell you that don't expect to reach out to someone without, if actually my bottom line onto it is that if you're not really able to display kindness and the elements of a human touch to yourself, don't probably expect to get it up from someone else. It all needs to start with you in that, how kind are you in your communication? How do you even write messages? How do you probably attempt to give people space in that whatever it is that you do is probably, again, what you'll expect others to do unto you. Another bit that probably I thought of maybe just attempting to explain a bit is the whole discussion around introverts and extroverts. In that, I listened to last week's conversation by Fortunators, and I think there was someone who was talking about him or her being introverted and not really being able to communicate and speak. And I'll want to probably clarify something on that. At times when I tend to tell people that I'm introverted, they'll tend to feel like I'm joking or something. But if you're really able to understand your personality traits, you'll have to work on it. It's not really a must that if you look at yourself as an introvert, then you need to be introverted in your communications and association with people. And it doesn't also mean that when you're extroverted, you'll always be one who goes all out talking in and maybe mingling up with people. But for me, my introvertness comes in when I am socially introverted, but very, very, very professionally extroverted. And my professional extrovertedness comes in the sense that, hey, I am seeing Mr. Chris. And Mr. Chris is one of the communications directors within maybe the company that I've been trying to call on a day-to-day basis. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, I tell you that's now where my extrovertedness comes in. And my extrovertedness comes in simply because I'm able to say, hey, my name is Kevin. I am from company X, Y, and Z, and this is what I do. What I am trying to discuss, rather what I'm trying to use there as a benchmark of conversation is, you see, when this presentation started, there was a section of what's your communication strategy? Your communication strategy here as a human being, whether you're starting, whether you're in your early career stage, whether you're progressive, is your ability to explain whom you are, what you do, what your desire is, and probably which direction you want to go. For example, if you're fresh from high school and you're trying to seek volunteering opportunities, or maybe you're fresh from university and you're trying to get into the job market, a key basic introductory statement for you, which will probably bring in your extrovertedness, is by, for example, saying, hey, my name is Emmanuel Odongo. I am a fresh graduate of engineering from the University of Dar es Salaam. And basically what I'm looking at is internship opportunities around electronical engineering or information technology. I mean, you see, the whole idea of communication in this particular instant is a bit of your ability to articulate who you are, what at times you do, and what your desires probably in life is. And the same also will probably apply when you're trying to do an email. An email, for example, will speak so much. An email, for example, will speak so much about who you are. One of the key ways of doing an email is, hey, be grammatically correct. Try so much to be grammatically correct. If at all the same way I'm saying, my name is Kevin Randiek, for example, or my name is Felicia Masaki, or my name is Lucinda Tomeka. Ensure you starting your name with a capital letter. Ensure probably you attempt to put in commas onto your introductory mail statement. Simply because, for example, if you're reaching out to me, because again, I work so much with associates and young people when it comes to projects I do, if you're writing to me seeking for an internship position, for example, in communications, and you do an introductory statement of yourself to me on WhatsApp by indicating your name with a small letter, with no commas, and giving short abbreviations, and not necessarily trying to be grammatically correct in your sentences, and not necessarily really trying to be articulate enough in your writing. You see, I will take that as a judgment, in that I'll be judging you by how you're writing your email, other than the other way of trying to judge you based with your expertise. So in probably short, in few words, probably as I attempt to open up the discussion, is etiquette starts with user person, either from the way you call and introduce yourself on phone, to the way probably you will write an introductory mail on email, to the same way on how you'll attempt to do an introductory text on WhatsApp, will kind of say so much about who you are as a person. And I want to attempt to give one last example. Even on my level where I am, despite probably the 8 years of experience I have garnered within the communications industry, when it comes to even how I do my text, more so when it's a follow-up of a pitch, or rather a follow-up of a project I'm following up on. Do you know, at times I always struggle to I always feel like I'm struggling to structure that text, or rather to structure that message to a CEO. And trust you me not, at times what I do is I will reach out to my other senior people within the industry and I'll give them a sample of the email I want to send to this particular CEO for them to actually tell me, hey, whatever it is I'm writing, do you tend to imagine or feel it's going to be attractive enough to give me a conversation with this particular CEO? Basically, the example I'm giving to you right there is to just make you aware that in as much as we are progressive on a day-to-day basis, that will tend to look like we know it all, we've mastered it all. You got to also reach out to other people within your circle whom you feel can probably help you reach a destination. So when it even comes to doing your introductory messaging on email, if you really feel you're not comfortable with it, look around to someone who you feel is much more senior than you, or someone who has done it before. Ask them, hey, Kevin, or hey, Chris, or hey, Baraka, do you tend to feel how I'm doing my email? Is it right? Will it make sense? Will it be catchy enough? That's basically one of the ways that you can tend to grow more as an individual when it comes to you building up your communications ability. And it will also probably help you build up on your public speaking skills and all. Probably I will tend to leave it there for me to leave Lucinda to engage a bit, then probably I can come in with extra inputs as we continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
I don't know. Yeah, sure, please.
Okay, thank you so much, Kevin, for such insights. I believe our participants have been taking notes and, in relating with the presentation, especially on the issues that you have mentioned. Lucy, I hand over to you. I don't know if you have any questions. Yes.
I did want to add on social media. I'm not going to get into specific platforms on social media. I'm just going to cover them in general. Social media etiquette basically are the guidelines that, in terms of companies and individuals, that we use and follow rather, to preserve our online reputation. With online, we have the chances to do things like boosting and promotions and so forth. So I'm just going to mention like very few basic social media etiquette. This would cover every single platform. Don't be overly promotional. Learn to balance between your promotional material and your valuable content. Avoid overly automating posts.
Lucinda?
We are losing you.
Lucinda?
This is something that I do at work. I use Buffer. I schedule all my posts for the whole week. And sometimes, not even sometimes, in life things, yeah?
Hey, Lucy.
Oh God. Hello?
Yes,
Yeah,
we lost.
No, nothing?
Probably we've lost you there. Let's probably attempt to do this for the sake of the remaining 18 minutes. You're back? You're clear?
I think I can hear you guys clear. I'm not sure if you guys can hear me.
Okay, we can hear you then. Finish it up then.
Okay, I am literally going to run through this before this network does this again. Okay, so don't be overly promotional. Avoid automating your posts. That means scheduling posts. Always leave room for that and Hootsuite and so forth for managing our social media accounts. Be careful with selecting and using your hashtags. The same message that you're carrying, and without being too many. Avoid using overusing them rather. Don't badmouth your competition, regardless whether it's a company account or it's an individual account. Badmouthing whoever is opposing you presents you as unprofessional, as petty, and for someone who is looking to do communication as a career, this is something you need to be very, very careful and considerate of. Be authentic and genuine. The audience on social media has a way of telling the kind of person that you are through the posts that you put. So always have that authenticity in whatever it is that you're posting, in your captions, in your engagement with the audiences. And yeah, I think those are just the basic social media etiquette. So if we are going to discuss each platform individually, then I think we are open to that. But this is something that we always need to be concerned about. Yeah.
All right.
Yes,
Lucy. Lucy.
Yeah, I think that's all I wanted to add on social media etiquette. And then we can discuss other platforms. I think we still
I think we lost Lucy. I don't know if Kevin, you can go ahead and lead this.
All right. All right then. Let me pick up on one thing. That's authenticity. This session has been so much on. Let me probably attempt to link up on something. This session has kind of been around understanding basic communications. Number two, knowing your publics. And number three, understanding different platforms. So on the last segment, in terms of Lucinda's discussion, in that she was trying to look at the bits of platforms. But for the sake of time, let me pick up on one statement that she mentioned, and this is around being authentic in your way of communication, and really being of your real character as a person. And I would want to link that particular statement in relations to you as an individual in terms of how you communicate yourself, how you attempt to position yourself within your industry settings. And I will attempt to maybe give something a bit new today. It could be new to someone, or it could be ordinary to someone else. And this is the ability of talking your backstory vis-a-vis your relevant experience. I mean, in life, in whichever careers we're trying to seek, there is an aspect of what's your relevant experience, and there's the other element of what's your transferable experience. And these particular two instances will influence how you'll want to communicate yourself to someone, whether it's on call, whether it's on email, whether it's on a one-on-one, or whether it's on text. Now, transferable skills here is issues like you are a big picture thinker. For example, you are cool and calm and collected while under pressure. Other bits of transferable experience that you need to know as an individual that will help you at times communicate yourself or up when you're trying to seek opportunities is your ability to learn faster. In that, in life, I'm just trying to bring a language into your mind that in life, it's important and it's possible for you to talk about your transferable experiences and skills if you feel like you don't really possess a relevant experience to a job. Like an example, one of the transferable experiences here is you talking about areas you're passionate about. It turns out to be a transferable skill in that you're passionate about digital technology, or rather you could be passionate around healthcare, but in the process, you don't really have relevant experience that positions you within the health passion by being within the healthcare system. It could be talking about your passion for music. It could be talking about your passion to see equitable access to education amongst boys and girls. That really becomes a serious transferable skill that will enable you communicate in occasions and in elements or other situations where you feel you don't really have an experience that is required at that particular time. And for today, maybe for the sake of how you want to communicate, let's just have the etiquette. Yes, let's have the professionalism. Let's ensure, yes, that you are writing your emails right. You are thinking, you are pausing before sending the send button. But also in the process, as you attempt to send these particular emails, as you attempt to probably express yourself within people, talk about your authentic self. And the only way for you to communicate your authentic self is for you today to start asking yourself as you speak, what are these transferable skills that I have, which in a way, in as much as I could not be having relevant skills to it, these particular transferable skills will enable you secure something. So if you start really looking at yourself from a point of what do I have in terms of transferable skills, in that, are you a quick learner? Are you passionate around issues technology? Are you passionate around probably issues education? That's now again how you will be able to communicate yourself on a day-to-day in basis with people. I don't know if there's probably something that Madam Boss Felicia will probably want to contribute on in the next 10 minutes for us to just ensure that we capture a bit of areas left, or rather anything within a minute or two. Maybe Masaki, you can probably guide on that as I just take a 30 seconds break on it.
Not really. So I think you the two of you have extensively covered this topic, and I really don't have anything to add, nothing much, but maybe I'm seeing Chris is around, so maybe Chris comes from a corporate environment, so maybe if he could share with us maybe any, I don't know how he deals with with different people across communication. So maybe I would ask you, Chris, I wonder if you can share a little bit about your experience. Maybe what are your major turnoffs when it comes to communication, especially with the younger generation, or like maybe 2 or 3, and any of your insights, like what are your takeaways, or something.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, good evening, Chris.
So I think most of it has actually been covered in the topic. It's just to confirm that what the presenters were discussing is correct. From a corporate perspective, it's a big turn-off if somebody doesn't come across as professional. So you need to choose very carefully how you communicate. Things to do with sending emails without headings, CVs that all over the place. There's no structure. I think Kevin said that he tends to judge somebody based on what they are looking at. It is true. So people can get discouraged just by looking at how you present yourself. I think that's the first thing that I'd like to comment on. So I'm confirming that it is important that you present yourself as professionally as possible. And then the second thing, I guess, to do with communication is that you need to know your strengths and your weaknesses. Kevin's covered some of them. The bit that I would just add is that I think for a lot of people, and this is a personal experience, that I found out that A lot of the people I consider to be good communicators, I thought that they were good because I used to see them on stage. But what I didn't realize is that they actually put in a lot of preparation into whatever they wanted to communicate. I remember one time I saw my boss going to the bathroom and he was practicing in front of a mirror. And I never imagined that possible. I just thought it was good. But the point I'm making is that you need to be prepared, whether it's a public speech that you're going to deliver, or even if it's a telephone conversation. Be very clear about what it is that you want to communicate. Have a minute or so where you process your thoughts so that when you're talking, you present yourself as logically as possible. Felicia, I don't have much to say. I think the comment I would make as a general comment is that a lot of the stuff that has been said here is true, and I hope the participants take it to heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. I think Chris has just reminded me something. For the sake of anyone within the class who will at times say that they don't feel eloquent enough to speak, or rather they don't feel like they're eloquent enough to stand before people. Let me tell you something, that in as much as yes, for me, yes, my background is in communications, there's so many occasions whereby within my 8-year journey within the industry, that I taught myself how to speak by reading newspapers. You see, the way you can take a newspaper, then there's a section of a story. I will pick a paragraph, look at the mirror, and really start reading it and putting intonations into it. You see, like, for example, it could be, unfortunately, or rather, let me give an example. It could be a story around sports, or rather, it could be a story around business, or rather, it could be a story around politics. I will take that section, look at the mirror, and read verbatimly when I'm alone, for example. Another interesting thing also is, before even maybe getting into stage, when I'm probably preparing to MC something, I'll be like closing myself within a room, or even while walking, I'll be walking while doing simple introductions like, hey, my name is Kevins, and this is going to be a Nani session. So it's just interesting in terms of how people will tend to see the bigger thing that happens on stage, whereas I'm just here to affirm the fact that there's at times so much, yes, that happens behind the scenes. Though I will also give you a hint that the way you'll want to be perfect, when you do something more and more, the more you get to do it, the more you feel comfortable in your space and in your skin doing it. Whereby there are situations whereby I could be called up in a last minute preparation to step in for someone while emceeing an event. And yes, you can be, I'll be able to pick up that particular script, internalize it, and probably deliver unto it. So bottom line again, just to end it up, I'm saying that in order for you to even sharpen your ability of writing an email, sharpening your ability of how you introduce yourself before people, sharpening your ability of how you network in the midst of CEOs and everyone that you'll attempt and desire to see and mingle with. It takes day-to-day in preparation. You get to grow over it in time, and with time you get better. So all I'm just trying to urge anyone who will tend to feel like, hey, I'm not perfect in networking, I'm not perfect in terms of how I do my emails, I'm not perfect in terms of how you do introduction on phone and all. Hey, I'm just here to remind you that it takes time, it takes day-to-day in preparations, it takes day-to-day in engagement, and the more you keep on doing it, the more you get better. The more you keep on climbing, the more you get better. And that's probably all I have from my end at this particular time of on this session of com skills. I just want to urge you people, don't attempt to miss the class on personal branding. That's towards the end of September. It's a class of personal branding that will be coming in the last week of September, I think. hey, that one is going to be a hot one. So you need to probably really plan yourself and just ensure you attend on that. And I promise it's going to be a hot one. So you don't dare miss. Even you, Mr. Chris, you need to probably ask someone to pay and come and attend to it. It's going to be a hot one. So thank you and have yourselves a great and a lovely night where you all are. Stay blessed. Thank you, Lucy. And thank you, Masaki, for having me.
Wow, Kevin.
I wonder if that is part of communication, but that's well done. I believe nobody will miss the session now.
Yeah, I wanted to quickly say something. No.
Yes, Lucy.
I'm seeing a question here from Pamela.
Yes.
She says it's tiresome when you talk to someone anakwambia mbona unaongea kama unagomba. How can you help someone like that? I wanted to ask her, how often, first of all, have you gotten that comment? Because I've stayed in a place where there's a certain group of people, they are tribal, the way they speak, what I mentioned earlier, the intonation, the pitch. To someone coming from Tanzania here, it would sound as though they are aggressive and they're fighting or they're shouting at you. So if this is naturally how your background, rather how your tribe or where you come from, this is how they speak. If you are going to come into communication, what I saw with some of my colleagues that I worked with from that place, it's now practice. You need to listen to these comments when people give you this feedback, instead of taking either offense in it or feel like they are attacking, because this is something that is coming from your home, from your background. Rather than taking offense in it, it's important to try and practice your tone to you know, when you go home, you can speak with that accent, you can speak the way you speak at home. But when it comes to professional communication, there's always the home you, and then there's always the you that you need to present, that perception that you need to put out there if you're a communications person. So if that is you, Pamela, I think when you get such comments, it's unfortunate that sometimes people aren't as insightful in that this is how the person grew up speaking, or this is where the person comes from. Some people don't actually understand that. So rather than taking offense and seeing it as them being uneducated, I think if you're looking to do something in communication, it's something you could practice to just have that ability to switch from what people might find offensive into something that you can use to communicate your message, and then just be yourself when you get the chance to be yourself.
That's very well addressed. Thank you so much, Lucy. I hope, Pamela, that gets to you. And I was also thinking the same. Like the best way is to, to take the comment and try to practice. And so, thank you so much. I think that's in line with that. So we are past the time, and I would like to thank you all for taking time to follow through the session, following carefully. The audience has been a bit quiet today. I think the topic was hot. Was hot on communication. I think everyone was relating to it. So thank you so much, our dearest facilitators, for bringing the point home and making it as practical as possible. Thank you, Lucy. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you for great conversations and taking us through the content. Thank you, everybody who has been a part of this. So till next week, I hope we get to reflect on this. We get to do some self-assessment in terms of how we communicate, our documentation, our sense of speech, and all those things. And also we get to work through our assignments and all. So, just let us be mindful and have people to maybe help us to be better communicators. With that, I would like to end the session. So till next Tuesday, I hope you have a pleasant and the best of the week, the remaining days of the week. Stay safe and good night. Bye-bye.